I've said it for years, if the game was easy, you and I would watch it.
Anybody could do it. Yes, yeah, anybody could do it.
That's right. Your first year in New York? How's it going managing in New York?
It's going. You know how it is there. It's been great. Going through the ups and downs of the 162 grind, and especially here in New York, when you go through those tough times, it gets loud, but that's what makes this such a beautiful city, such a beautiful experience, because I don't think there's anywhere like it, in any other places, So it's been great. I have such a great group of players, coaches, support staff, training. So I'm enjoying it. So yeah, it's been fun. I'll ask you. I mean, how was it for you your first time here, especially after managing in other places?
Right. Well, this is a different entity of the other places. When I was in Houston, we had the one newspaper, and you had one beat writer. When I went to Anaheim, we had probably 4 beat writers, and so it was a whole different ballgame. But when I came here, I was lucky enough to have the help of the PR director, Jay Horowitz, that really helped me before I even started anything, to let me know about what it's like, what to expect, what not to expect. And then, of course, every night before the press conferences, he gave me a heads up on what to expect in the press conferences, so that helped out a lot. So your interview process for your first big league job. Tell me what it was like. Did you know David Stearns before you talked to him? Had you ever met him?
Yeah, it was an interesting offseason. I never met David. And last year, I interviewed with a few teams. So I was in the middle of a interview process with 2 other teams where I was pretty deep into the process. Not only the first round of Zoom calls, going to the cities and meet with the face-to-face at their ballpark. And then I get a call out of nowhere from David Stearns. I got a text first and then a call. That was our initial conversations, just kind of get to know each other. And then we went through the interview process, first round through Zoom, long hours, the one-on-one with David, and then with a lot of the front office people. At the time, I was like, man, David's a really good guy. Like, we connected right away. I came away from the first round telling my wife and my family, like, wow, this guy gets it. But in the meantime, I was, like I said, I was talking to other teams, right? And then about a few days later, I get another call from David and say, hey, we would like to fly you to New York to do the one-on-one meeting. I was like, perfect, I'm ready to go. And then he's like, how's your schedule going? I was like, I'm free for the next few days, whatever. So anyway, I flew up to New York, came over here, met with David. A lot of hours face-to-face. I thought it was a very good process, very detail-oriented, a lot of questions. He wanted to get to know me, but at the same time, as much as he was interviewing me, I was interviewing him too. Because I wanted to know if this is the right fit for me, what I'm looking for. Are we on the same page here? And some of the things that he wants, I want. And then again, not only with David, but with a lot of the front office personnel. A long day. You get in here at 9 a.m. You've been through it. And then I'm getting out of here by 4:30. I'm on my way to Manhattan to meet with Mr. Steve Korn. So I was like, all right, this is going well. That I'm getting the opportunity to talk to the owner. I felt good about my chances, and like I said, the way we connected right away was we both felt it. And then after that day, a couple Zoom calls, and then until finally you get that call that you're, the whole life you're expecting that call, and it's like, hey, hopefully this is something that you can do for a long time. You're ready to manage a New York Mets. As a player, I never got that call to the big leagues, or just as a coach, hey, you're going to the big leagues as a coach. But getting that call to let you know that you're going to become a big league manager. What a day, what a call, what an experience, and blessed. It was a long process, but I'm happy I got this opportunity. Tell me about your interview process back in the day.
Well, they were all different.
I bet.
I had a lot of different ones. My first interview when I was with the Houston Astros, I met with Bob Watson, who was the general manager at the time, and I talked with him, and Tal Smith was the president of the team, so I talked to them, and then I went back. I was coaching in Pittsburgh at the time, so I went back home, and then they flew me back out for the second interview with Drake McClain, and they had a round table. And there was probably 13 guys at the round table, all front office people.
Drilling you with questions.
One after another, one after another. But I also had the opportunity, because when I got the phone call, my mentor was Jim Leyland, and so I called Jim and said, I'm going to be interviewed for the job, and he said, meet me at the stadium. So we spent no less than 6 hours. He'd been interviewed like 7 times. So there was not a question that they asked me that I had not already heard from Jim. So I was pretty prepared for that one. When I was interviewed in Anaheim, it was a little different. Billy Bavasi called me, he was the GM. I flew out to Anaheim, met with him and the assistant GM. 6 days later, I went out and met with the president of the team and who had some questions, the same thing. And then he called me in the middle of the night one time and he said, you need to get on the plane. Michael Eisner needs to meet you. He's the CEO of Disney. Yep. And owned the team, owned the Angels at the time. And he said, he's got 30 minutes this morning and you need to be there. So I flew out to Anaheim and it buzzed me up to wherever Disney is in Hollywood or Burbank. And so I met with Michael for about 25 minutes and then I was walking back out, going down to meet Billy. He was on the phone and he said, that was Michael Eisner, you got the job. So then I came here and I already had interviewed once here when Willie Randolph got the job. And it was a whole different interviewing process. It was completely different due to the magnitude of the media here.
Right.
So it was a whole different ballgame. But when I came back next time, I'd already known Sandy. I mean, Sandy and I'd met him a couple times when he was the president of San Diego and also in the Dominican, because when I was the farm director of the Dodgers, I'd done some work with Sandy in the Dominican. So we got to know each other a little bit. So, but it's the same thing, the same feeling. I had been out of the big leagues for 6 years when I got the job here. So it was that same special phone call when I finally got a chance to get back in it.
Yeah.
But we had a great relationship here, and so it was a lot of fun, as you're saying. It's going to be a lot of fun for you. It's a long way, and you're going to be here a long time.
Amen. Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, no, it's a different ball game nowadays, but yeah, we all learn from each other. You know, you have your mentors, obviously.
Yeah.
I have mine. A lot of people that helped me along the way, especially going through those interview process until you finally get that call.
Did you have a lot of talks with Booney about it?
I talked to Booney, but I also, guys that, you become friends, mentors, Dusty Baker for me, because I remember coming up with the Giants in the minor leagues. I went to big league camp. I was 18, 19 years, and then Dusty was the manager with the Giants. So we created a pretty good relationship. And then once he got back in the game with Houston, we lost contact, obviously, different path and things like that. But once he got the Houston job, and then, we were playing them, we connected again, and he helped me a lot. Obviously Booney, but there's a lot of guys that helped me big time. And not necessarily just big league managers, but pro scout, farm directors, people that I work with in player development that helped me going through this interview process. So I'm very thankful for having so many people around me that were willing to help me. Terry, you mentioned Aaron Boone. Let's talk about Jim Leyland. What can you tell me about him? What was the best advice he gave you?
Jim and I talked baseball endlessly. I lived in Pittsburgh when I was coaching for him, so we got to spend a lot of time with each other. One of the things he preached is it's about the players. It's about the players, and talent wins. So don't think you can take an average player and make him a superstar. Make sure you have a direction. Be out there all the time. And, when I managed, we all have offices. I was in the clubhouse a lot. Trying to have a conversation, how you feel, and this and that. And then the other thing he taught me, when I have something to say to a player, try not to have him in your office. He used to walk around the field all the time. And we had a couple instances that some things have happened in the clubhouse or off the field, maybe on the plane. And Jim would walk around the outfield and talk to the guys, and you wouldn't know if he's telling a joke or if he's tearing you up.
Yep.
And the writers were there, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do that, and I did it forever, and it really worked out here, especially because there's so much media around the batting cage. I'd walk around the outfield, and if I had something to say to somebody that try to give them a little bit of motivation or get out of about something that happened the night before, nobody knew it. And it was just this one-on-one. And I watched him really closely. I asked him one time what differences he made when he's from the first year when he got the job in '86 in Pittsburgh, and this was 1992. We had a really good team. What kind of a different manager he was, and he said, "I'm telling you what I'm doing differently. I'm writing Barry Bonds' name in the lineup today." And not so it's all about the players, and that's what he kept telling me.
That's great. Yeah, it's funny you say that because a lot of managers said, "Hey, my door is always open." Players will never gonna come to your office. I have the same approach where if I need to say something to a player, I usually do it in the cages, training room, weight room, even in the cafeteria, when having a meal, just checking in on guys, or just, like I say, if I want to deliver a message there, doing BP, shagging. But that's good to hear that, coming from Jim Leyland to yourself, that you guys did it that way. That's pretty impressive and, makes me feel
same thing. I didn't want to ever have to have my door closed. The places are all different because when in Anaheim, I mean, my office was connected to the clubhouse, right? It's a little different here.
Right.
And so when that door was closed in my office, guys were
like, oh, something's going on
in there.
Yeah.
You know, who's in there?
Yeah.
Who's the guy? So, yeah, it's a little different experience. What has surprised you so far about your first year here?
I don't know if I'll say anything will surprise me so far, because I've been in this city for a few years now, and I know, like I said before, when it gets tough, it's gonna get loud. So I expected it coming in. I think just the reinforcements of, hey man, you got to stay consistent, stay positive. You're gonna get through it. I know it's loud out there. I know it's noisy, and it feels like the work's coming to an end. But at the end of the day, you got to keep things in perspective and just be yourself, stay consistent, stay positive with the guys, because they're gonna feed off you, especially when it's hard. Like I said, they're looking at you. How are you reacting? What's your body language? How are you gonna show up the next day? What's your attitude like? So that's basically the one thing and that happened right out of the gate. We got off to a rough start, and then the guys picked it up and played well. Then we went through a very tough month of May where it was really hard. We had some tough losses during that month. And then, same thing, you keep showing up, keep pushing guys, be there for them. How can we get better in different areas? And I'm glad the guys continue to work. And we got good players, like you're saying, am I doing anything different? Well, you knew at the end of the day, Francisco Lindor was going to start hitting.
Yeah.
That Brandon Nemo was going to start hitting. Pete Alonso. You got somebody like J.D. Martinez in your lineup. So things starting to pick up, and we started winning some ball games, and now we're in a better situation, but understanding that we got a long ways to go, we got work to do, but just continue to treat one day at a time, one game at a time, one series at a time. I know it sounds easy, but that's pretty much the approach. So learning with a lot of different personalities, learning how you navigate a bullpen, lineup construction, talking to your coaches, because at the end of the day, you surround yourself with great people. That's all that matters. All right, TC, tell me, what was the biggest adjustment you have to make in your career as a manager? Well, whether it was here, early.
Well, it's easy for me. I was a pretty intense player. I'm a little guy, so I grew up playing harder than the next guy. No matter what I did, I expected a lot of myself. And so when I started managing the major leagues, because I respected the game so much, and how to play the game, because there wasn't, in my entire life, I will tell you, there wasn't a time I jogged the ball out, right? Mm-hmm. I played with a broken jaw one year, played with my teeth wired shut, but because that's how I thought the game should be played. So when I got to the major leagues, I demanded a lot. I demanded these guys to respect the game. Mm-hmm. So my intenseness rubbed guys the wrong way sometimes. Did it in Anaheim. Matter of fact, I had my most favorite players was Garrett Anderson. We had a situation when I asked him one day, I said, "Do you got a problem with me?" And he said, "I don't." He said, "I know you want to win. You're a little too long, a little too tight for me, but I know you want to win." And so when I got the job here in New York, I said, "You know what? I'm going to enjoy the job. There's only 30 of them. I'm going to have more fun because it's a great job."
Were you able to enjoy it?
I did a lot, and I did the same thing you just talked about. I used to spend a lot of time with the guys, and I'd ask a lot of questions. I formed a committee when I got here. I didn't put the rules down; the players did. And I had in my first year, Beltran and Santana and Wright and Pelfrey and
some good names there.
Reyes. I'm skipping some names, but I brought them in. And I said, "When should we be at the ballpark?" And so I didn't have to worry about policing those things. They did. Mm-hmm. So it made my job a little bit easier because I didn't have to worry about that stuff. And those guys took care of a lot of things themselves. Yeah. It just made it a lot easier. So now the hard part here, obviously, is that to be able to budget your time so that the writers have everybody, as you know, they all want 2 minutes, right? I've got a couple minutes, and it turns into 10 when you want to be out there with your players. But the players understand that here, so I just try to enjoy managing the game and enjoy my players a little bit more than I ever did in the past, even though I had really good teams and really good players the other places I was at. So, Carlos, we know about how intense, how hard the game is. What do you like to do away from the field?
I'm a family man. I got 2 boys, 10 and 13. They're into baseball. So whenever we're not at the ballpark, we're doing something in the cages. We're on the baseball field. Spend time with my wife, obviously, at home. I like to cook, grill. But yeah, I think spending time with my boys, with my family. And you'll see the boys out here, during BP. They'll come spend the day here, something that they're to an age now where they know how to behave and they understand. And it's been a blessing for me to come to work with my kids and be around in the batting cages, throw batting practice to them, hitting ground balls. So when I'm not on the field, I'm off the field, but I'm on the field. I'm on the baseball field with them, and just being at home and just being with the family. What's like going from the field as a manager now be a part of the media?
Well, I wouldn't consider me media. I'm more of a consultant kind of a thing. It's first of all, that I learned here, these guys have jobs, and they have bosses like you and I do. So a lot of times, some of the questions they ask were maybe inappropriate, but I knew it really wasn't coming from them. So what I try to do in my job is to bring something that the fans have never seen. All the fans want to know about something. So my stories are about stuff that's happened that people don't realize.
Right.
Really, that goes on. I mean, I did a show last night where they talked about going out to argue with an umpire when, he might have got the call right, but you're trying to pump your team up. And so I told him a couple things that happened with the umpire. He said back to me, but just to lighten it up a little bit, but give the fans something to do. My podcast is all about talking about Mets and things of the past, because the Mets fans, they are diehard Mets. And I see people all the time, and so I just try to make sure they understand the game's still fun and it's hard. I've said it for years. If the game was easy, you and I would watch it.
Anybody could, anybody could do it.
That's right. I know you got a busy day. Thank you for taking the time out.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, man.
All the best. Good luck.
Thank you.
I'm watching. I watch every night.
I know you are.
I do.